Okay, hello everyone. Welcome to the Time Management for Crazy Times webinar. I'm Avi Ziel. I'm the Director of the Educational Design Unit at Masa, and we're going to invest the next 60 minutes to understand how we can make sense out of the free time and busy time that we have in these crazy times. And what we actually want to do a little bit more in depth is to understand what are the challenges that we have in this unique time. Until a month ago, when I used to run a workshop about time management, probably the only two things that I used to hear were A, I have a lot of distractions, phone, people calling me, people messaging me, people entering my office, etc., etc. I don't know how to manage it. And the second one, I have so much stuff to do and I have no time. Times are different times. Now it looks in a bit of a different way. The challenge of having too much stuff to do for some people is even more relevant. For some other people, actually is not a problem anymore. And for other people that still have a lot of tasks, they have to manage it in a way where the space that is available to them is basically only their house or the house and the clothes area. Which brings a lot of other challenges by themselves. So I want to understand what are the challenges that are keeping us busy in this time. And I want to give you a few techniques that I think can help you. And that's actually the structure also of this webinar. We are going to just invest a few moments to understand what are the needs in the room, if there are other needs that I didn't mention so far. And then we're gonna understand a little bit more in depth what are the challenges, and then we're gonna go with the main techniques. Obviously, if there's anything that I'm not addressing and you would like me to address, I'm obviously more than happy to do so. Just a tiny request for the people who joined us. We are not a big group, so you are welcome to turn on your camera if you like, so that I can also see you. You can also interact with me and with other people better. So let's open the chat, please. I'm going to open it myself. And I would like you just to share with me what are your expectations. What is the main challenge that you deal with right now when we're talking about time management that you would like us to discuss? It can be related with the way that you manage your different tasks. It might be related to the balance between being at home and investing the time in yourself, and also in the job that you have. It might be actually an opportunity to develop yourself personally and professionally with online courses or with networking from afar that you didn't expect that you would have to do right now. And I think that what is going to help us actually understand even more what are our needs right now is just to explore how we are relating to one thing that until now we either stuck to, either we cursed from the depth of our hearts, which is our phone. And I'm not going to go into another rant about how the phones are ruining our lives and social media is poison for our brains, etc. That is not interesting. I don't think it's relevant. And I also think that after so many people in the world are just spending their whole time indoors, at the end of all this craziness, people are going to bless the social media that they gave them an opportunity to actually connect with other people while being at home. I do want to actually take the smartphone as a case study. The way that a lot of people related to smartphones was basically their personal assistant. All of the informations are stored there. The main way to communicate with other people is through the smartphone. Moreover, other stimuli, other stuff that we didn't really invite into our lives, but people were interested in throwing into our lives, news, gossip, content, came to us through the phone. And a lot of people had a very difficult time understanding how to make sense and how to make order out of all this richness. On one side, it's actually great. It's a tool that we didn't have previously, and now we have. On the other side, getting used to attracting all those information and all those relevant content, and to be able to reach out to so many people, even people that are very far from us, is something that needs to be managed and cannot be something that we just do instinctively. This leads us to probably the main challenge that we still have to deal with, which is hyperstimulation. Or in other words, we know that we are constantly exposed to so many different stimuli, so many different triggers, cognitive, emotional, things that are really, really interesting to us. And we actually curate it throughout the years. Think about your Instagram or Facebook or TikTok feed. At the end of the day, by choosing who to like and who to follow, you decided who is supposed to bring you now, who's supposed to reach out to you and present you with their content. So again, we are exposed to a lot of different content. We're also exposed to a lot of different requests for attention. Our colleagues want attention from us, our boss wants attention from us, our family, our partner, and requiring someone else's attention is becoming more and more legitimate. It doesn't matter what is your relationship with the other person. I can reach out to someone mildly famous and message him or her for 5, 10, 15, 20 times within 3 or 4 days and just keep asking, why aren't you answering me? That's something that wasn't available to us, even not 5 or 6 years ago when the social media world was already a part of our life, and today is just totally legitimate. And if I can do that with my idol, I can do that also with anyone else that is actually close to me. So each one of us is constantly exposed to a lot of different stimuli, and the ability to filter them or to even prioritize them, it's a muscle. It's something that needs to be developed. And what I want to present you with afterwards is not only a way to filter, prioritize, and maybe make order, but actually to use the same technological tools that we have in order to structure the way that we approach those stimuli, or ditch them if we feel that they're not as important as they think they are. First challenge, hyperstimulation. Second challenge, which is probably new, is boredom. Some of us are working around the clock, even from our homes. Some of us aren't, either because they got fired, unfortunately, either because they just have less work to do, either because they're not in a stage in life where they are working and they're doing something else. But most of the social aspect of our lives that used to be going out with our friends or just getting a coffee at someone else's house or just taking a walk outside or visiting a mall is just out of our lives. For some of us, is a challenge. We were not used to be bored anymore. We were used to just to move from task to task, to work, to friends or family or partner or just fun stuff, without even asking ourselves when is going to be the next time that I can just sit still on the couch and do nothing. Actually, some of us, the opposite, grew out of sitting still on the couch and doing nothing. So when we suddenly have to invest most of our hours in our houses, in our apartments, probably with people that we like or love, maybe not even that, we are presented with a lot of time that is free time, and at some point, even live streaming, may it be Netflix or Amazon Video or anything else, it becomes boring as well. So the second challenge is boredom. And I think that is going to be more and more dramatic the more time passes by, the more that we will realize that we there's only so much that we can do by staying at home. And I will present you with some options also with how to tackle this challenge. The last challenge, which is also a new one, is what they used to call work-life balance. I always hated this expression. It doesn't make any sense. Work is a part of life, so it could be work-family balance, but also in that case is never balanced. Work and life today are pretty much merged into the others, not fully merged, but pretty much merged in one into the other. We work from home, and now we work only from home, most of us. But also beforehand, we used to answer emails on the go when we were on the bus, when we were at home, when we were on the toilet. So we never had any chance to actually have some sort of balance between work and home. And Dafka now, when we have to deal with work from home, and we still have distractions that come to us within our home from our computer, smartphone, iPad, etc., but also from our roommates, from our family, etc., etc. We need to understand how now we can't just shut ourselves into a room, or we can, but not sure that it's going to work. So these are the three main challenges that I wanted to present you with. I read also that other people suggested other challenges. One of them is what we just said, having a lot of free time, and how to make it more effective. And someone else wrote about how can we make a schedule that makes sense, given that we are still busy, but we're doing it all from home. So let's start with a few solutions. I do want to say, if you have any remarks, feel free either to unmute yourself or just to write on the chat, and I'm happy to relate to everything that will come up. Okay, so let's start with one basic rule, which is what we are searching for is a flexible structure. That means that any technique that I'm going to explain now, any hack, any tip, is not a magic wand. It's not something that you're going to use and it's going to solve all your problems, but it's something that together with other behaviors might help. In other words, you can make yourself a schedule, you can decide to turn off the notifications on your phone, and you can decide to work in the morning and relax in the afternoon, and that might still not work. We need some science-backed structure that we decide that we can experiment with, see if it works, and then adopt as a habit. Together with that, we need to understand that the structure needs to be very flexible. And this is not a cliche. That basically means that in a reality where we don't know how our day-to-day is going to look like a week, 2 weeks from today, and to be honest, even when the whole coronavirus is gonna end, we need to understand how we can make a structure that we are not totally dependent on. Some people, even before the virus, used to schedule themselves back-to-back meetings from the morning until night. That's a structure if you want. Meaning you can look at it as a structure, but it's not necessarily a productive structure, because it's enough that one minor crisis comes up and you have to take care of it, that the meetings that you schedule needs to be canceled or rescheduled, and some of them probably were already urgent. It's enough that you reach a point during the day when you are just incredibly tired, and you thought that you would have the energies to do something also at 6, 7, 8 p.m., but you know what, you had a crazy day and you don't have the energy to be on the whole day, which is actually a whole field, is energy management. I'm going to talk about it just a little bit, but it's something we have to take to consider as well. So scheduling back-to-back meetings, again, is an example. It's also structure, but it's not a flexible structure. Actually, is a structure that almost attracts crises, because it's very, very easy that something is going to just come in and disrupt whatever you plan for yourself. What I'm talking about is about a structure that by nature allows you to make changes and to adapt the more that the day, the week, and the month passes by. And all the tips and all the principles that I'm going to explain now are bricks within the structure, are things that you can experiment with and try and see if it works for you. And if you put some of them together and you get used to them and you make them a part of your routine, that eventually can become a flexible structure. Questions, thoughts before we move forward? Okay, good. So tip number one, take a look at the picture on the left. You can call it a drawer, call it a tickler, whatever you want. I assume that most of us have something like that, right? I think that in most of the houses where we grew up, there was something like that. It's just a drawer where if you don't know where to put that toy or that object or that nice merchandising that you got from the conference, you're just going to enter the house and throw it in the drawer. And you will, of course, remember that you put it over there. So the idea of having a tickler or having a drawer where you just throw stuff is something that is very not productive. But it is a nice idea. I mean, it's a beginning of a productive idea. Or in other words, we do want to believe that everything has a place. And when I say everything, I'm talking also about our own ideas. I'm talking about our tasks. I'm talking about interesting content. And the first thing that I want to suggest to you is that you need a tickler. The idea of calling it a tickler is not mine. It's by David Allen, which is the person behind the GTD technique. If you want, you can take a look at the technique. I actually don't think there's a great technique. I think it's a bit old-fashioned, and I don't think that it works anymore. But this specific part of it, I think, is very useful. The first thing that you need is a place where to put stuff. When stuff could be anything that reaches your attention. It could be an interesting video on Instagram. It could be a task that you have to do. It could be a document. And I strongly suggest you to invest 15 minutes, 20 minutes to understand what are the different things that you want to keep, that it's important for you to have order, that you have in place, and that it's important for you also to be able to go back to them easily. There are some things that we don't care about going back to them easily. Think about interesting posts on Facebook or any other social media, right? Meaning they're interesting, but most of them, if we will forget about them, no nora, we can live without them. But there are other things that we do want to be able to back to them. And I strongly invite you to invest those 20 minutes to understand what are the things that require your attention that you want to get back to, and how you can organize them in a very automatic way, meaning that you don't want to think every time, what am I going to do with this? What am I going to do with this task? Where am I going to write it? Or this is an interesting book that I want to read. Where am I going to write to myself that someone I want to order it from Amazon and I'm going to read it? You want to be able to say, oh, books, of course. My book list is over there in that app. Or tasks, they're all in one place in Google Tasks. Just giving an example, etc., etc. Now, I'm suggesting here a few different apps. I'm also going to show you some of them. I think we have enough time for that. Yes, we do. I'm also going to show you some of them, but I want to just explain the difference between the three categories before. I divided here database, content, and tasks. So first of all, let's start with a quiz. There is one thing that I didn't write here that you would expect to show up, something that definitely requires our attention, that is present in our everyday life, and it's not even mentioned here. What do you think I'm talking about? You can either speak or write. So first of all, you're right. I didn't write here meetings. I'm going to talk about it just in a few moments with the same principle. But there's one other thing, which is emails. They're just not a part of the picture. And I'll explain you why. Because in the same way that I didn't write here messages or WhatsApp messages, email is a medium, is a way to communicate, is not a storage, is not a database. You don't want to store important stuff in your email. Going back to them is going to be a mess. You want to decide where to forward your important stuff that you receive through your email so you can go back to it afterwards. That's why I started Dafka by talking about databases. So there are two apps that I strongly suggest. Can you see my browser? Okay. So the first one that I suggest is Evernote. Evernote is basically a way to collect your notes in an ordered way. You have notebooks, which is basically categories that you decide what they are here on the left. And then you have the different notes on the right. It also, here, you can see here all the different notebooks, quick notes, reminders, and also it's a way to connect your media with the one platform. Or in other words, Evernote syncs also with Outlook, if I remember well, and with so many other softwares. It's just easy to forward your information over there. And you can also attach documents. You can embed, if I remember well, Google Drive files. And this is just one way to have a database. You just have everything here. Every time that you have something interesting or important, you just import it into Evernote. Important file, so open just a notebook, important work files, and everything is going to be there. It's going to go there. If you want to go even more specific, you can divide important work files, strategy, operations, marketing, and then you just send it over there by categories. It will take you time the first time just to put it in place, but once you have it, it's just easy for you to know that you have to drive the right documents to the right place, and then you can just go back to the right folder to search for it. I do want to add that Evernote has a pretty powerful search, so it's pretty easy to find documents or files or notes or texts that you include here to once you want to look back at them. Also, one last thing, it has also a browser integration. You see it over here. So if you're just browsing, you can tap on that icon and then you can clip whatever you're reading. It could be the whole page or just the text into Evernote, and then you can find it on Evernote, even on your phone, on your tablet. I am going to show you another app that I think is relevant, which is Notion, which is pretty much the competition. Notion is very similar. The only difference is that you can put in the notes also things like this. It could be tables, it could be galleries of other notes. Take a look at this, etc., etc. It takes a little bit more time to set it up, but I think it's great. I switched from Evernote to Notion a couple of months ago, and I like it. But again, for some people, Evernote is much better because it's just simpler. And Notion needs a little bit more attention, actually, to work well. I'm going back to the presentation. Yeah. Now let's talk for a moment about content, interesting content. There are two softwares that I suggest. The first one is called Pocket. Pocket, if you are not familiar with, it's basically an app and an extension. It's also over here. It just means that when you're reading something, let's say that you're just scrolling down on Facebook or on Twitter, okay? And you find a link to an interesting article. And you start reading the article, and then you have to get up from the toilet. But you want to keep reading the article later on in the day. So what you can do is just to save the article in Pocket. If you download the app on your phone, it just becomes one of the options on when you tap on share. And if you want on your computer, you just have it here on the browser. And you will find afterwards all the things that you saved here decluttered, and you will know with no advertisement. On your phone, you will find it also offline, so you don't need internet to read it. And I think it's just a great resource. With the time, it becomes your database of interesting content that you read in your life. There is a parallel app, by the way, that is called Refind. The difference is that Refind also suggests you content every day based on your preferences, but also here you have a reading list, and you can export to the reading list anything that you find that you want to keep for afterwards. And then when you have time, either when you're having lunch or dinner, or either when you're just on the bus, you can just take a look at the things that you saved and read them. So we went through databases, which is mostly for information. It could be your notes from a meeting. It could be information that you got through the email. It could be important documents that you want to have. We went through software where you can just save your content. By the way, you can save the content also on Evernote and Notion if it's easier for you. Just open a folder for interesting content. And now I want to go to the last one, which is tasks. Now, for a lot of people, tasks are actually the most challenging thing to manage. Why? For the simple reason that it's called Post-it. A lot of us are just used to write the things that we need to do on so many places. It could be some like lots of yellow Post-its around our screen. It could be some nice notebook that we got in the last conference that we attended. It could be just our phone on the go. It could be that we open the WhatsApp group with ourselves, so we're writing what are the things we need to do. There's plenty of options. And the problem is that most of us use plenty of options at the same time. So you don't have one place where you are collecting all the things that you need to do. And that's a problem, because you will always have to collect all the data again when you start working. And just by the time that you found some time to sit on your desk, open your computer, and start working, you will have to invest every time 5 to 10 minutes just to understand what are the things that you need to do, because that you wrote them up in so many places. Just pick one thing, only one. If you have a notebook that you like, use that notebook. If you want to use your computer, use your computer. I don't suggest that, unless you can sync it with your phone, because a lot of times you won't have your computer with you. You're going to be at that party after the virus is going to go away, and you will remember, oh, that guy asked me to do that favor, and I would have to write it somewhere. And I really hope for you that you don't go to parties with your laptop. So it's better for you to use an app, other notebook. But again, the notebook has a lot of times the same problem with the computer. The two apps that I suggest, and believe me, I tried so many of them, are TickTick. If you want something that is sophisticated, you can write the things that you need to do, and then also here you can just divide them in different categories. You can decide what's the deadline, priorities, different tags, etc. By the way, TickTick, you can also sync it with the Evernote. If you want something easier, you know what? Google Task is actually great. It syncs with your Gmail. I mean, you will find also your tasks in your Gmail on the right bar if you open it. It doesn't have so many options. It just tasks, subtasks. Also here you have deadlines. You don't have really folders. You can do different lists, but it's a little bit less user-friendly. But it's also a great option. It's not something that I would ditch so easily. If you're searching for an easy option, go with Google Tasks. Make sure that you have it in your mail, on your computer, on your phone. If you have a tablet, also in your tablet. But just make sure to build an habit of writing the things you need to get done in one place, and that's the one app that you decide. Nowhere else. One word on building habits. Building habits is not as easy as we think, but it's also not as difficult as we think. Or in other words, the more that you oblige yourself into doing something once more, it's going to be much easier for you to make it an habit. The one trick that I can give you is just celebrate your wins. Or in other words, if you decide that you want to put all your tasks on the app that you're going to pick, so just decide that every day, at the end of the day, you're going to look back at your day and you're going to say, did I put all my tasks on Google Tasks? And if you did, just treat yourself. with whatever you want. It could be some nice sweet treat. It could be some binge watching that you wouldn't allow yourself on a regular day, or it could be anything else that provides you with some pleasure. And what I wanna say is that that's scientifically that's the only way to create a habit. Not only to do that, because you have to remember to do that, but mostly to create a reward for yourself. Obviously, you have to be serious about it, right? Meaning, if you reward yourself, even if you didn't do whatever you want to do, the habit you wanted to build, so it's not going to work. So the first tip was tickler. Do order with all the information that you get. We spoke about hyperstimulation. Here's the solution. When you get something, don't rely on the fact that you're going to remember or just store it in your brain. Just put it in the right place. If it's information in your database, if it's content in whatever app you're going to use, and if it's a task, in your task list. And obviously, if it's an event, just put it on your calendar. And now let's talk about your calendar for a few moments. No, this is not a calendar. But it's actually a great way to think about our tasks. There is this guy, I can't remember his name, and he said that he has a farm and he's got chicken. And the problem was that he realized that every day at the end of the morning he had less chicken. He would find some other dead chicken in his farm, or he would just find less chicken. So the first day he decided to just put a higher fence. It didn't work. The second day he decided to just change the layout and put the chicken in a different place in the farm. It didn't work. And then he just realized that the problem was just by observing that other animals were coming every day to eat the chicken. And they would come every day at the same time. It would always be around the end of the morning. And he couldn't be there every single day guarding the chicken that are not gonna get eaten by other beasts. So what he started doing every single morning is to put out food for those beasts. First thing in the morning. And from the day that he started doing that, he had no problems anymore with his chicken. He could just end the day with all the chicken that he had at the beginning of the day. And also he wasn't busy all the time trying to understand what's going on with the chicken. And the same guy decided to create a time management technique that is called FTB, Feed the Beasts, which basically means the following. Every single day, we are supposed to do two kinds of tasks. Tasks that we want to do in order to make progress, because we know what are our goals, right? We want to have X sales by the end of the week or the end of the month. We want to present those documents and get them approved so that we can move forward with the project. Or even if we're searching for a job, we want to send X CVs a week. But we also have a lot of other stuff that, to be honest, we don't want to do that. But we need to do that because our colleagues are asking us to do that, because our boss requires us to do that. Or even personal stuff, right? Calling family members because they expect that from us and we want to be good to them. That's called feeding the beasts. Or in other words, to provide the beasts, and I'm sorry to call all those people beasts, but you understand what I'm saying, to provide the beasts the food that they need, those documents that we need to review, or those answers that they're searching for, or those calls that they're expecting, first thing in the morning, so that we know that no one is going to bug us for the rest of the day and requiring us to reply to that email that they sent us a week ago and we still didn't take the time to address. The FTB method is basically saying, first of all, make sure that that you don't owe anything to anyone, so that when you want to invest time in stuff that you actually need to do and want to do because you want to make progress, no one is going to bug you with stuff that you owe them. And I think that that's a powerful way of thinking about the things that we need to do. which leads me actually to the next idea, which is the idea of time blocking. So again, this is not new. This is something that was that's been already a buzzword for a while, which basically says the following. Our schedule is not only about the meetings that we have. Our schedules is a tool, exactly as those are tools, all the apps that I showed you. Also, our schedule is another tool. And the goal of our schedule is to collect all the things that we do and put them in order so that we can go back to them and see where they are and how much time do we have for them. Even if there are only things that, even if there are things that we're doing only by ourselves. So the idea of time blocking means that, of course, you're going to write down the meeting that you want to have, but you also want to write down when you need to invest some time in traveling, or when you want to invest some time in, as you see here, top priority tasks, or when you want to make calls because you have to return those calls, right? Or even when you want to exercise or relax. If you want those things to happen, you need time to do those things. And if you don't schedule time to do those things, even if you have all the time of the day, because whatever, it's just not going to happen. So the advantages of writing everything that you want to do on your schedule are multiple. First of all, it helps you making order. You know exactly when each one of the things is supposed to happen. Second of all, you're going to get notifications. So even if you forgot, it's going to remind you, hey, now it's time to exercise, or now it's time to relax. Third of all, it gives you a very accurate visual understanding, visual outline of how your day look like. If you have only 2 meetings during the day, but you actually have a lot of tasks that you need to do, maybe at the beginning of the day, you're going to feel that your schedule is actually empty or almost empty, but it's not. You have a lot to do. Your schedule is pretty full. It just doesn't show that. So you're going to be very disappointed by the end of the day. You're just halfway through the day. The last thing that I want to say about scheduling, though, and time blocking, is that the relax and break parts are very important. Time blocking is not about writing everything that you want to do on your schedule. It's about also deciding the pace. You can start with the meetings. You can add times for the tasks, but make sure that you also have time when you know that you're going to take a break, that you're going to take a walk, a short walk these days, or that you want to call your friends just to wind out. And I'm going to relate to this also in a few moments. Which leads me to the next one, which is the Pomodoro Technique. I don't know if you're familiar with it. I'm going to go through it very quickly. I think it's probably the only technique that I think works very well. Pomodoro Techniques says the following. It's called after Pomodoro, in Italian, tomatoes. And it's really after what you see now in the picture, which is those tiny tomato timers that help you understand whether whatever you're cooking is ready or not. And the technique says you're supposed not only to block your times during the day, but you're supposed to divide your day into blocks of 25 minutes, no more than that, where you just do one task that you decide that you want to do, nothing else. Obviously, don't multitask. I sort of assume that people know that, but multitasking is poison. It never works, not for men, not for women. Doesn't matter what is the stereotype that you heard. Multitasking is bad for your brain and it's just not productive. The Pomodoro Technique says just split your day into blocks of 25 minutes, 25 minutes, 25 minutes, with 5 minutes of break between them. Every 3 to 4 Pomodoros, you can add a 15 minutes block to get more rest, or longer if it's lunch or dinner. But during those 25 minutes, don't do absolutely anything else rather than your task. Don't answer phones. Don't answer messages. Actually turn it off. The idea is that those 25 minutes are 25 minutes of deep work. And then at the end of the 25 minutes, even if you are just in the middle, you really want to finish the document or really want to finish the email, it doesn't matter. You just drop the keyboard and stop working and you take that break. So you have also motivation just to rush during the last 5 to 7 minutes, because at the end of the day, you need to be serious about making a break, exactly as you're serious about working. And also, it's a way for you to track how many distractions you usually get. You got 25 minutes, your phone is with all the notifications off, you're working on that document, you're not looking at the phone, you're not doing anything else. At the end of the 25 minutes, you take a break. If you want, you can look back at your phone, and then you realize that 5 people called you and you got 10 messages. It's a way for you to understand what are the usual distractions in your day-to-day life. Obviously, the technique needs to require from you also that you schedule during the day Pomodoros to get back to the calls that you got, or Pomodoros to message people, etc. I'm suggesting here just 2 apps that can be helpful. The first one I think is called Pomodoro or something like that, but you can just write Pomodoro on the App Store, on the Play Store. You're going to find a lot of different options. If you have one that helps you also tracking how many Pomodoros can you do during the day, that's great. And the second one is called Tide. I think it's only for Apple. And it just also gives you some nice background music and some other options that you can use to relax while you work, so it's less stressful. I do want to say Pomodoro Technique is a great technique. It's a very easy technique. You can read more about it if you want. Just Google it. But you have to commit to it in a way. And it's an easy commitment. It's not that difficult. It just means that you don't work in any other way. You start your day, you have 25 minutes, timer. At the end of the 25 minutes, stop, make the break, etc., etc. And then here and there, you can have a few moments where you just complete that message or reach out to someone or send a reminder to a colleague. But mostly you need to commit to the fact that during the day, when you are working by yourself, you're using the Pomodoro Technique. Questions or ideas or thoughts before we move forward? Okay. So I'm going to move to the last few tips. The first one is about how to take a break, which is as important as how to manage your tasks. And what science says is that we want to have creative breaks, or in other words, not only to stop working and then wasting our time scrolling down on whatever social media you just picked. I'm not saying it's bad. I'm saying that it can be our only break. There are other ways actually to give our brain a little bit of rest. The first one, which is obvious, but dafka now when we're closing our homes, I think it's essential, is just moving and do anything you want. It could be yoga, it could be just stretching a little bit. It could be a 7-minute workout. You can thank you. You can check also on YouTube or on the App Store what are the relevant apps. There are many of them. Just write 7-minute workout. It's intensive, but it's fun. And this is the first one. We tend to think that, no, I'm lazy, I'm tired, I wouldn't want to move. It's the opposite. It's actually a way to get energized, especially if it's quick and intensive. The second one is actually to reach out to other people, to be social. That's also incredibly helpful. And that doesn't mean just messaging. It's actually more about calling people out or Zooming them or whatever. And what's interesting is that if you actually take the time to help someone, it's one of the best ways to take a break. It doesn't matter what help means. It could be just to listen to someone that wants to vent about how difficult it is to stay home all this time, or it could be someone that asks you for a favor and you're just doing that. But it has a lot of value, and also it helps us feeling that we are using our time in a very productive way, and not only for our work, also for our social connections. The last thing is to just take the time to learn or to just get to know new things. So I'm suggesting here 3 apps. I'm not going to show you them. The first one is Blinkist, which is a nice app that provides you with like fun, short summaries of interesting books, personalized also to your preferences. So if you don't want to just sit down and read a book, you can just open the app and it will provide you with a summary of an interesting book. Deep Stash is similar. It sort of curates content from different blogs and magazines. and they're both apps. Mindshine is a different way. It's a different app. It gives you some other ways of winding out. It could be meditation. It could be other reflective or relaxing stuff. And that's also a great way just to stop for a moment, close your eyes, and invest those 5, 7, 15 minutes in yourself. The last technique that I want to present you is actually to get bored. And this is important. So there's a recent research that speaks about attention and how does attention look like. And it basically says there are 4 ways to be attentive. Some ways we know them very well. The first one is when you're just working and you're giving your attention into work. The second one is when you are just listening and being present, whatever you're doing, even if you're not working. It could be when you are in a meeting. The third one is what's called flow, when it's just deep work and anything else is not even happening. You're just focusing on that one thing that you're doing. The difference with the first one is that the first one can be even very, very automatic and very technical. Just think about any task that doesn't really need your brain to work. You just need to do it. When this one is like when you are investing all your attention and energies into one specific problem or challenge that you want to crack. The fourth attention state is actually daydreaming, which is again a muscle that we sort of lost, but is our ability to stop for a moment, not using our phone, and just wandering with our head and letting it go to wherever it wants. It could be while you're just sitting on your balcony. It could be when you're sitting on your couch. It could be when you're just woke up and instead of just rushing out of the bed, you're just opening your eyes and you're just thinking about your day ahead. And I'm not thinking about that mindset when you're just thinking about everything that you need, worrying about stuff that you didn't do that you were supposed to do. That's not it. It's more about letting your stream of consciousness play freely in your mind, and it has a lot of value. Because it's healthy for the brain. Our brain also needs some unstructured time. It can't be always on. Second of all, it's also a source of creativity. I mean, we tend to be better at finding solutions if we invest more time during the day daydreaming. And third of all, it's also just healthy for our mood. We need that legitimacy to tell ourselves, I don't need to be working all the time, or I don't need to be effective all the time. Effective could be also just talking with a friend. But you know what? Sometimes it's okay also if you're not doing something that is social or something that is professional. And if you take all the techniques that we went through in the past 20 minutes about how do you store the things in a different way, and how you play with your schedule, and about how you get bored on one side, but also you take great creative breaks on the other side, you can build yourself some sort of structure that is a structure, but is flexible. You have an idea. Now you are quarantined, and it's a great time to learn something new. It doesn't matter if it's an online boot camp, if it's Khan Academy, or if it's just a nice a series of videos on YouTube. Great. Store it, put it somewhere, and then review it once in a while. Review the things that you stored, everything that you have in your tickler, and decide, when am I going to do that? Actually, what I suggest you is to schedule once a week, mostly on Saturday nights. Just review everything that you stored in your database and content and your task list during the past week, and understand what you want to give your attention to in the upcoming week. Do you want to learn something new? That's a great idea. You probably wrote something about it in your database or in your task list. Now decide, what is it you want to learn, and mostly, when is that going to happen? Is it going to happen 2 evenings at night? So just write that in your schedule and give yourself a reward if you succeed in following up during the first week, and also in the second week, and also in the third week. The idea is that you want that loop to happen time after time. You want to build that structure when you have everything in place, you collect and you know how to get back to, and then you start doing that, and then you review it once a week to see if it's working. You can tweak it. Maybe you know that there are some times during the night that you can't work as productively, so you're going to schedule less stuff there. Maybe you know that there are times where you are required to do stuff for the people around you. So learn from that and schedule those times, etc., etc. And then tweak that structure. Learn from those insights and tweak the structure so the next week is going to look better, and the week afterwards is going to look even better, etc., etc. And this is the way that I suggest you to manage your time, even if you're quarantined and you're working, which requires you to block times for home and for, you know, just chores or just being with your roommates and friends or partners, and blocking time just to do the work that you need to do by being conscious of what the two things require from you. And even if you are quarantined and you're not working, and you actually want to invest the time efficiently, instead of just moving from one idea to the other, or to one screen to the other, just try to understand what are all the ideas. Take the time. It's not so much time.